Our guest for tonight, he is the host of the Liberty Lockdown podcast, Mr. Clint Russell. Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm good, Chrissy. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm
You-
talking about Twitter drama, but here we go.
it- do you feel like it's like you want to be above it sometimes?
I tried to. I literally like the whole reason I ended up in this arena in the first place, or in this issue in the first place, was because Thaddeus said some wild shit that I had Eliza. I literally invited Eliza on because I was like, well, who do I know that could like push back against claims that, age of consent should be changed? Like, well, she's the only person that I knew of that was like in that arena. So I invited her on. And then
Okay.
I had no inkling of there being controversy a year and a half down the road. So like now in hindsight, everything is just upside down. It's crazy.
And for people who don't know, which I guess includes me, Thaddeus Russell, because the first I ever heard of him was on that episode with you and Eliza. And is he just, like, known for his age of consent spicy takes, or is he, like
No,
what is
he's
he known
he's
for? And I guess what was this tweet that came out?
yeah, he actually came to prominence, or he came into my purview from his appearance on Joe Rogan like 5 years ago, where he was talking about postmodernism. And at the time I was completely unfamiliar with it. I thought what he had to say about it was insane. But I grew to know the guy over the past couple years, and other than his takes on that particular topic, I think that he's an interesting thinker. He's really like, his whole thing is, I'm going to think and talk about the things that you just simply aren't allowed to. And that, I think that gets into a lot of trouble. Um, but I don't necessarily think that, like, I don't think he's really a bad guy, just to be honest. I think he's just a college professor who likes to talk about things that you're not allowed to. That's my honest opinion.
You think he just likes to, like, push buttons and exactly, like, poke the beehive, so to
Yeah.
speak,
I
like,
mean,
just
the name of his podcast is unregistered, and like the intro to it, he's just
oh,
talking
no.
yeah, he's just talking about these are the topics we're not allowed to discuss, so we're gonna do it right now. And I've had college professors like that. I think that sometimes people, particularly in our current very non-tolerant society of people who have differing viewpoints on taboo subjects, it's like you just assume the worst about people. I could be wrong though. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong about Eliza. I considered her a friend, and I thought she was great, and she was doing the best work in the world to, try and take,
Uh
child porn off the social media world. So, and maybe that's not true. I don't know. I don't know.
Isn't it nuts? I had her on 4 times. I never suspected that she was lying,
Yeah,
and
me neither.
this can happen, I guess, to anybody. You'd hate that you have to now vet everyone. I mean, what does that even mean, vetting? Like, I
You
don't
can't
know, because
prove you can't
I think
prove a
even if
negative.
I had tried to even if I had tried to vet her story, she wouldn't have told me clearly. Because now people try to vet and ask her questions, and she gets very cagey and
Yeah.
doesn't wanna go into detail, and there have been a lot of conflicting things coming out as far as her age, and certain dates, and, I mean, I just saw something before we went live that was like a recording of her saying that she was, like, in love with her trafficker, and I've heard things that she's say, like, it's almost like she's describing, like, you were in a relationship, and you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it's really hard, and most of us don't know any h human sex trafficking people, so it's like, we don't even
None.
know what questions to ask, we don't know, like,
I thought
what's
I knew one.
yeah. Did you get
I
the
thought
sense, Clint, like, would you guys chat a lot? Like, you said you felt like you were friends, so do you feel like, "Oh my god, I was deceived, I was hoodwinked in some way," and
uh,
have you
yeah.
been getting flack from your viewers about platforming her?
Well, because it was a year and a half ago, I don't think anyone really remembered it until today. So, like, the flack will probably be coming, but I don't know why I would catch flack for, like, having someone on who I thought was being completely upfront and authentic about everything she was doing. Um, in hindsight, I guess I could have dug deeper on her story, but like you said, how do I prove a negative? How do I prove that she has never, dealt with these types of things? For the record, I still think there's a real possibility that she was mistreated in some serious fashion, and perhaps she exaggerated on that story, which makes her timeline crazy, which then, like, the cover up's worse than the crime. I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt because I've hung out with her in person a few times.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get the sense when you were hanging out with her in person that, like, things weren't adding up to her story? But you probably weren't hanging out and asking her about her story,
No.
you're probably just hanging out as friends, like,
Yeah.
just
No,
chilling.
we were, like, doing the convention circuit, and we would just hang out and party and drink, and that was it, like, we were just having a good time, and she seemed like a really authentic, fun person, and I had no reason to suspect anything negative, and honestly, I still don't want to. Like, I don't want to believe that this
Yeah.
could not be true. And which is weird because then I'm wishing for her to have been treated
No, of course
terribly
not. Like
because,
you said,
like
oh, you said like, "Oh, I feel like she was very." There's a difference between being mistreated in a relationship and claiming to be sex trafficked.
Of
Like I
course.
I would say most women could say that they have an example of being mistreated in a relationship. Like my
Right.
dad freaking threw a chair at me when I was 8. Like my I have an ex-boyfriend who like kinda slapped me around a bunch. So it's like, most women could say, but would I go around saying that I was sex trafficked, that I was, would I start going around me tooing people? Would I try
Right,
to
right.
put, would I try to make a whole career off of it? They're two kind of different things.
No, I agree, and here's the thing, like, I really wasn't going to get involved with this at all until she started to get I think. I mean, all of this is, like, on the outside looking in, and I'm trying to assess what's going on, but my read of things is that it appears that she has been using her relationships in some form or fashion to get people deplatformed that are asking honest questions and posting publicly available content. And I think that that is terrible, especially as someone who's, I thought was in my circle, hardcore free speech, no censorship. I think that to me is like, I know that's going to strike people as odd, but like that to me is a bigger slight than her story maybe being false, because like if you're say that the story is false and then she comes out and she starts to do these great things, and she's actually
Right.
getting big tech to change their protocols, and she's actually helping survivors, like, okay, then it's a wash, like, yeah, she
Yeah.
lied about how she got to prominence, but then also she's doing great things. I don't care. I'm just being totally honest. But if you then turn around and you try and deplatform people who are not doing anything wrong, that's actually really bad, and that's something that's happening real time. Um, so I don't know. That's my 2
Yeah,
cents on it.
no, I feel that. It's almost like, okay, if she lies about who she is, that just discredits her among her peers, and it affects her own professional life, and, like,
Right.
that's her life. But when you zoom out and you go, "Wow," like, Twitter is so vulnerable that a person with a certain a certain set of skills, but a person with a certain charm, charisma, seemingly good intentions can literally sneak in and penetrate Twitter's trust and safety, like the main trust and safety person, and literally like manipulate and get their way when she's not a Twitter employee, but she's been able to get her way in terms of censoring certain people for posting public shit.
That's what it looks
It's
like to me.
wild.
I'm just being
It's
straight, and let me also add, like, I genuinely consider her a friend. Like, I really, really do.
wow.
I have her personal phone number. We've talked on the phone a handful of times. We've texted, like, we've hung out at multiple events. Uh, we're also mutuals on Twitter, so the fact that I had to respond to your little clip today, I'm sure didn't make her happy. That I would imagine that she'll probably block me.
But
You
if
know,
you're a friend, she wouldn't block you. You know what I mean?
well,
You've hung out, why would she block you? That's what I thought. I thought her and I were cool, and then she blocked me for literally asking, "Why did you block
right.
Brittany Venti?" I said, "I hope," and I wasn't even like, this is my first tweet about it, wasn't coming after her heart. I was like, "Brittany Venti did nothing wrong. I hope Eliza can see that." And after 4 podcasts and me having her number, I mean, I look back, she's never responded to any of my texts, but, like, I would text her occasionally about things. I get a block.
Yeah.
So I
That's
don't
how
know.
I
Maybe that's how she works. She'll hang out, she'll go to Freedom Fest, she'll go to these
right.
things, hang out with people, and then you think that, like, she's your friend, and then a real friend wouldn't block you over going on a podcast or asking a question on Twitter or, like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll
yeah.
give, like, best case scenario for why she would be doing that is, like, her story is true, and So anyone that questions it, she feels as if it's a betrayal. However, there is enough evidence now that it requires her addressing it. It just does. I'm sorry. I didn't want to be involved in this at all, but like you have to address these things. You have made a lot of claims that are very public. You've kind of made your name off of this story. And if there are examples where that story falls apart, I think that you have a duty to your base or your fans or whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what to call it because of, particularly what she does. It's such a weird thing to say you have fans for being, an advocate in that regard.
S Sex
Uh,
trafficking fans, yes.
yeah, yeah. It's like, huh? But I think that she has a duty to just answer the questions. And if she can't answer the questions, well, then I guess that says something. But I still want to hold out hope that she'll just do the right thing and not continue to try and deplatform people to keep whatever the deception is a secret. Like
Yeah.
I think it's a terrible, terrible thing to do.
So I wanna get to so this is the episode 102 with Eliza Bleu and Thaddeus Russell. I thought this was interesting because I do notice, like, I don't know, Eliza has ways of, like, getting in with people, and I just, like, I took, like, some notes. Okay, so it just was funny to me because at one point, she said she didn't want to come out as a sex trafficking public survivor because she
Mhm.
said, "Oh, I don't wanna embarrass my family," but she doesn't even go by her given birth name, which is Morthland. She goes by Eliza Bleu, so I'm like, how would you, in your stage name, embarrass your family? And also, why would you embarrass your family if you're working for a good cause?
Right. Well,
I thought that was kinda
unless they just didn't know that it had happened, and I guess that would be a reason not to go public.
but how would her dad, who is a politician, not you know what I mean? Like, I just don't see that happening to a politician's daughter, like, getting to a point unless you are, like, a runaway or something, but
I don't know. I don't know anybody that's been
yeah.
trafficked. So like, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
an unusual story or not.
That's true, that and I think there's definitely room to take advantage there because most people don't know anybody trafficked, right? Let me see if I can play
Data
this
that we
part.
have available completely coincided with what I predicted. I stepped out in the Daily Wire of all publications. I was just asking publications, please print this information about the hotline and vulnerable populations and how the lockdown could affect human trafficking. The Daily Wire asked if I would add my picture and my name. I was very reluctant because I didn't want to embarrass my family, but I said yes because I felt like the need of COVID was.
Like, why would if you were trafficked, you wouldn't tell your family, like, "Hey, I was abused," like, that's your whole support system unless you've disowned your family or something, but if that's the case, why would you embarrass them? I don't know, I just
Well,
feel like
keep in
that's
mind
kinda
too, she
sus.
she says, I think in this interview, because I rewatched it today because I wanted to figure out if I had like missed something. Um, and I think she says like her parents are still married and they
Yeah,
are great. They're the cutest couple, and so like she doesn't come from a broken home or anything. So I think
which
that
is
that
atypical, yeah.
I would imagine it's atypical for someone that ends up in that situation. Sure.
I wanna play a little more.
I took a lot of hits on Twitter. A lot of people have said horrible things about me that I wouldn't wish on any survivor. But at the end of the day, it kind of stops being about you and
Sure.
stops being about the other survivors. So I don't really care how I feel. Like how I feel is irrelevant. Um,
Well, that's a beautiful spirit to come at this with, and
She's so
I just want
selfless.
to, before we even dig deeper, I just want to commend you for making this a big part of your life because I can't even imagine. I mean, I wasn't a victim to this, and I could still dedicate my life towards helping this. But for someone who has the emotional turmoil that you experience to proceed in this manner, it's breathtaking to witness. So I just wanted to start by Oh my
That's
god.
she took your breath away. See, this is I don't buy it. "Oh, it's all about the victims. It's all about the victims. I'm just humble. I'm just a humble, bleach blonde, smoky-eyed angel here." It's like, "Really? You don't care? It's not about you? Then why are you getting awards? Why are you such a flashy dresser? Why are you trying to hobnob with, like, the upper echelon of new right podcasting? Why are you at Freedom Fest trying to, like, fucking you know what I mean? It's just
See, this is what bothers me though, is to hear because I am so sincere there. I am so
you
sincere
are.
that like to imagine having been trafficked for a decade as her claim was, and then to turn around and be like, I'm going to talk about this every day for the rest of my life. Like that would be the last thing
Right.
someone like me would do. Cause I'd be like, oh, that was horrible. I'm going to move on with my life. Come hell
Right.
or high water. I'm never going to interact with this again. So I really taking it at face value, I was like, what a beautiful
Yeah.
thing to do. You know, like that's
And this is
really self-sacrificial in a
it
lot of
does,
ways.
and of course, you're like, "Wow, why would I ever question somebody with such a beautiful life purpose?" You probably at this point didn't know that she had 4 other names. Like, this
No,
is
I
like
didn't know
the
any of
like
that,
her
of
5th
course.
identity.
No, I didn't know anything.
She was, born Eliza Morthland, then she was Eliza Cutts when she was, the hairstylist for My Chemical Romance, then she was, Eliza Knows, which was the version of her that was doing World Star Hip Hop videos and, like, basically a video vixen. Then it was Eliza Seep, supposedly married to somebody
Hmm.
from Germany or living in Germany, also dabbling in modeling. She was with Tyra Banks and went on the Steve Harvey show. She was on Blind Date at some point,
Wow.
and now she's Eliza Blue, the sex trafficking, smoky-eyed angel that no one's supposed to ever question.
Well, I mean, that's no, I didn't know any of that at the time. Obviously, I don't even think I had. I think this is our first conversation ever. Like we were just like
Yeah.
Twitter mutuals at the time, so
I
like
know.
I had never
Yeah,
spoken to her.
I felt kind of I just took it hook, line, and sinker. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
like you
me
never
too.
wanna think you're being taken for a ride, but I'm watching everything she's saying. It's like all everything she's saying is something you can look up online and, like, recite facts and, like, recite the definition of human trafficking from the human trafficking website.
Hmm.
Um, I'm gonna
Saying
find
that.
this.
So thank you for what you do.
Well, also you have to remember there are a lot of women and survivors that have walked before me that made this possible. There are a lot of
Certainly.
women. There are a lot of women that took a lot of mudslings in public. When survivors of human trafficking first started stepping forward, they were seen as willing participants in the crime. Um, women with buyer's remorse or women with drug addiction, mental illness, you name it. They took the hits. I have the easy street. I have it easy. So I kind of zoomed in, the reason I stepped forward was because I saw a survivor on YouTube.
Mm.
I saw a survivor. Her name's Annie. We did a podcast together.
Oh, that's
But
That's her being starstruck right now. That like, "Oh my god." I don't know.
mm,
Once you start looking for
started stepping
clues,
forward.
you're like, "Oh, she
They were
just wants
seen
to be
as
famous."
willing participants in the
mm.
crime. Women with buyers
I was trying to get to the part of this interview where she's like, "I feel comfortable talking to you because you're a good-looking guy." I'm like, "She's fucking hitting
Mm.
on you on this interview."
I
Ah.
I remember that.
Yes, of course you do.
Because
'Cause it's
it's
like,
not often that women, just hit on you on a
"See?
podcast. Yeah.
See? Like, wow, we really got along. I don't feel like questioning her story."
Mm. But see, I was already giving her all sorts of accolades, so that
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
that wasn't necessary.
You just never that's the last thing somebody expects. Is like, "Oh, this person's probably lying about this, and this is just their 5th,
Oh, no.
personality over the last 10, 15 years."
Literally, it was the furthest thing from my mind. Never
Yeah.
even crossed my mind until a year plus later.
I know, I was sticking up for her too, like, as recently as Christmas or New Year's, I was
Me
like,
too.
"Oh, you're just trying to clout chase on Eliza," and then all of a sudden, I just started I don't know, something clicked. It was probably the censorship, it was probably her censoring, like, Venti, one of my good friends, and
Yes. That that's
reporting, and then
that's
I
when
go, "Well,
that's when I took notice too.
what are we trying to hide here? Like, why is why is she doth protesting so much?"
Does anyone know why? Why that particular video? Why?
Oh, we still don't know, and in fact, it's like she's trying to rewrite history by she got the World Star Hip Hop video taken down from YouTube, she got it taken down from Twitter, just by filling out the proper paperwork, so to speak, or going through the proper channels. To me, it seems like she's taking advantage of a loophole that she helped to create.
Well,
Because
I saw that. Sorry, go
before it
ahead.
was, like, too hard. It was, like before it was, like, too hard to get material down from Twitter, right? Because the guys that she supposedly worked with and
Right,
helped
right.
had a hard time getting their CP taken down. So now it's like, not only has it who knows if it's been overcorrected or it just seems to really be working specifically to Eliza's advantage.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, God, I have so many questions. so like it. Honestly, this is really embarrassing for me now because like looking at it, and I'm just like, oh,
Oh,
I'm
dude,
just like blowing her.
I'm so not doing this to embarrass you. I'm gonna EFAP my own episode with her probably tomorrow or the next day because I was the same thing because like
Ugh.
you don't go into this being like, "Oh, this is the person's 5th personality
No, I had no clue.
and
No clue.
here's a bunch of like music videos this person's been in and she's talking about how excited she was able to do World Star and how she reached out and made that happen and then you're like, "Oh, this person's talking about." Okay, so I'm going to fast forward it to 23 where she basically it sounds like she kind of and this I'm not doing this at all to make you at all look bad,
Oh
Clint. That's
no,
not the point of this at all. It's like kind of
I
like
quote
I feel
I
like
quote.
I was taken for a little bit of a ride, and I'm more looking for holes in Eliza's story
Yeah,
because
no,
it's
I
been
totally understand. I'm just saying it's embarrassing because I feel duped. That's all.
girl, same. Okay, let's
Totally different things. Yeah, sometimes they intersect. So I believe that a willing adult sex worker can show up to meet with someone with a buyer and be sexually assaulted and potentially sex trafficked. Yes.
So, she's basically saying, like, a prostitute, an escort can show up to meet a buyer and be sex trafficked. So, there's been many examples of her kind of equating prostitution or escorting to trafficking.
Mm,
Like, there's a very popular clip that's going around from Michael Malice's interview where she basically equates trafficking to catfishing or a theft of identity on
yeah,
Twitter.
that was very confusing to me, but I do think I understood what she meant in this particular instance because I think she was just saying that like you can still rape a prostitute. Like if they
Of
go
course.
into yeah, if they go into it
But
and then they decide
trafficking, and it's like
yeah,
she's
the
not saying
trafficking I
she's a
don't
rape
understand
survivor.
that.
She's saying she's a human trafficking
Right.
survivor.
Right. Which means that you like but then she
It
also says like pimped sometimes and she'll use that
Yes.
interchangeably and I'm like I don't think being pimped is being trafficked because like you can still leave that. I mean, maybe not
Right.
always, in which case it would be trafficking, but sometimes it is voluntary. So I'm like, "Ah, I don't know. I don't know."
It is. It's exactly most people have no fucking clue, which is why she can just, like she can just run game. She can just be like,
Ugh.
"Oh, here's the deal," and, like, I'm even watching this, and it's like, she likes to feel like she's educating people because then she's in the position of power.
Mhm.
People can't question her, like, but the minute you start going, "What are the dates again? Are you sure you were underage? Like,
Mm.
what age were you at this year?" She starts freaking out and, like, getting triggered and saying, "I'm a survivor. You can't ask me questions."
Yeah.
Yes, those things do sometimes intersect. And I believe that, sex workers or willing adult entertainers definitely have the right to consent or not consent. I mean,
I would hope.
Okay, that's all fine. Yeah, and of course, like, it's a very kind of, like, libertarian talking point is, like, let people do porn if they want, let people buy porn if they want,
Right.
but then I feel like there's a libertarian issue where you lose a lot of people, and that's when you start talking about age of consent,
Of course.
and, oh, it's so sticky and tricky, and, like, even you say in this, episode that you're not really a like, not a fan of porn yourself, but you're like, "I won't stop people from doing it, like, people can do what they want."
Mhm.
Alright,
Well,
I'm gonna
and for the record, like I did not once again, I did not want to have this conversation with Thaddeus either. But he was in such the crossfire and he actually called me personally and was like, "Hey, can I come in and explain?" And I was like, "If you want to explain, okay, but I got Eliza scheduled and I'm gonna have her grill you essentially." Like that was the premise of this.
Okay.
So I don't know. Crazy. Wait, Forest Mom is here?
Forest Mommy's here.
Hi.
Oh,
Yeah,
hi!
hi, Clint.
Oh my god, I didn't even know you were coming on this.
I didn't either. Frank just told me, come on. Do you guys think, though, she is being
What?
trafficked by the globalists?
What?
Do you think she's being trafficked by the globalists?
Anything is possible at this point. I'm about to play the clip, Forest Mommy, of what is leading into this clip that was kind of, like, going around. I think this account called
I
Bluey and
saw this
Ron.
episode when Clint aired it. I remember I watched this because, again, Clint was all in up on the controversy of Twitter and everything, so I had
You
to
mean
watch it.
the Thaddeus controversy? Or just
I don't think I was in any controversy back
You
then.
weren't
There
in,
was,
no, you weren't
there
in
was,
it, but because you platformed them.
yeah,
Then
people got upset with me for that, and I have always taken the position that like if I want to have a difficult conversation, like I'm gonna do it regardless of what my audience has to say about it. And honestly, I stand by this interview. Like I think that it's a 2 hour as as like honest but as cautious and careful, and like it was a really good discussion. And people are going to parse it, they're going to take shit out of context to try and like destroy me over it. I don't give a fuck. Like I
Nobody wants to destroy you. I mean, I
Oh
hope
no,
that's not
trust me.
your
I've already seen tweets with people like not even taking video segments, but taking clips and saying Eliza didn't push back when Clint Russell referred
what?
to. Yeah,
If anything, you were the most pushing
I
back.
know. I know.
Well, I'm gonna play like a hefty couple of minutes leading into this discussion of like age of consent. That
Sure.
way, and if you want me to rewind it back even more, I will. But that way
Oh,
people can
don't worry
see
about it.
the full what led into this discussion and uh basically like more context.
And that's great. I mean, I'm a survivor of child sexual human trafficking.
She says she is a survivor of child sex trafficking, but then like in other clips, oh, what happened when she was I don't know. The ages are squirrely to
I can
me.
tell you how I feel. I'm not feeling too good about it right now. So we can always talk about how we feel, or we can talk about everybody as a whole, right? So let's talk about the problem as a whole, not how one person feels. Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Well, I mean, I'm talking about many people, but okay, yeah, sure.
Well,
But I mean, you would certainly acknowledge that there are many people who are 13, 14, 15 that have sex with an adult and then feel as if they were taken advantage of too.
Oh,
Can you pause it?
100%.
Okay.
okay, so let's focus.
The reason I brought that up is because Thaddeus's argument, and this is the thing that was actually taken out of context. Thaddeus's argument online was that he knows people that are now adults that had sex when they were 13, 14, 15, and he framed it as that they do not feel as if they were taken advantage of. So people are saying because I said that I'm basically saying like, oh, it's just being taken advantage of, it's not rape. No. It is rape. I'm saying in his framing, are there some people that you would say, okay, yeah, 13, 14, 15, they really didn't consent and it's not a good thing? And I just wanted to make sure that he would agree to that at least, because it seemed as if he was not drawing a line at all originally.
Because he had this one example of like, well, I knew a girl who was 15 and dated for 3 years her
Yeah.
teacher that was
Her English teacher. Yeah.
her English teacher that was what, 30 plus
Yeah.
years
30,
old?
35, I think he
And
said. And
she didn't feel that there was anything wrong with that. But it's like when you're 15, you're a kid. Like
yeah, I think it's terrible.
you're not old enough to know if something is okay or not. And kids are fucking stupid. And you can convince them that
Right.
things are not good for them, are good for them, that things they might be confused about, they actually like. So, okay, we'll keep playing it.
So the
Many,
worst.
many. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so let's pretend like we all have our like utopia. So if I could answer this in utopia, right? In my like perfect ANCAP utopia, each community and each so it'd be each caregiver, parent, and community, including teachers, potential faith leaders, and neighbors, will decide if the child is ready to consent and look at the child's behavior. Do they have a job? How is their education going? Are they cognitive?
I'm sorry, but this makes it sound like Eliza is like the whole community can decide whether or not a kid can have sex. Because if he has a little lifeguarding job, well, then he's good to go. It's so
Can
icky
I
to.
clarify? Because
Okay, okay.
I'm not going to run cover for her, but I understand the framing by which she is making this statement. The whole premise to this conversation is there a non-state solution to protect kids? That's like every libertarian thought experiment begins with, can we fix this without government? Because we don't
Okay,
want government,
right.
but we also don't want kids to be raped. Like, okay, so that's the reason that she's framing it in this fashion, is like, I think that the government fails at everything it does. So can we come up with a better solution to this? And her solution, whether you like it or not, is a separate question. But her solution was, well, what if we have the parents and the church and the school and blah, blah, blah. Now, the reality is the vast majority of rape comes from the parent, the church, the school.
Yes, all the people
so
she's
like,
naming.
yeah, it's ultimately not a great solution, but I understand the reason that she brought it up, and I think that of all the things she said, I think that's one that I don't actually agree with people, flipping out over. So for what it's worth.
I think she started saying it because she's, like you said, the chameleon, and that's how Thaddeus talks. And so then she kind of had to start like going into that conversation like he talks. That was
Because I've
how I
never
took
heard
it.
her mention ANCAP in any other interview
Oh,
she's ever
we
done.
need to scrub the
You
internet 'cause
have?
I think
You've
he
heard
says
it,
it.
Frank?
He's in the
Okay.
MC a couple times, and I'm like, no, 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 no. We need to find that and scrub that. I forget where I've seen her say that,
She
but
she told me that I mean a handful of times. Like I saw her at libertarian like events, so I really thought
Well,
she
she
was
must
like,
be libertarian. Yeah.
yeah.
If you're at an
Mises
event,
caucus
Well, like,
especially.
why would you be at a libertarian event if you aren't a libertarian?
Oh
Like
yeah, did she tell
that
you
sounds
about her
terrible.
dad being a politician? Did she ever mention that?
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that would
think that's
that
a
would be
little weird.
relevant,
Yeah.
I think.
I didn't know that. I didn't know a lot apparently.
Ugh, none of us did. I don't know. I just think this is a weird.
I
But
look,
that's
I
that's what you
understand
do. Like,
entirely why people don't like it, but like she's trying to problem solve but still protect kids without the government. That's the
right?
premise of this. So if people understand that, I think they'll understand the framing a little bit better. You still don't have to like it. You're totally fine to say, "Oh, that's a fucking terrible idea and you guys suck." Like, okay, but I don't think that she's saying, you know, like kids can just be raped. Like I don't think that's what
No,
she's saying.
she's not saying that. It's like everyone in this community would have to decide what the age of consent is based on I don't know what because I don't know. Like
Well,
I just don't know how you would go
yeah.
about deciding your own age of consent for your own community.
Well, I mean, that's what we've already done though. Like 18 that's what the community's, I guess, decided. So,
But it's almost like Thaddeus is on here to argue that it should be younger because it's like you're not going to argue for age of consent unless you think it should be younger, right? Like nobody
right.
is he arguing for it to be older? No.
No, no, definitely not. And I think he was, I mean, people can watch it for all the nuance that exists within his argument, but he is right that there are different age of consent numbers that exist all over the world. And I personally don't like the topic because I think it's like 18 is fine. Like that's okay. But it has been a consistent, thorn in the side of libertarians simply because we don't like government. So whenever
Right.
people say like, "Oh no, we shouldn't have the government, deciding this ought to be up to the father." Like, and honestly, I still think like whatever the age of consent is, like the father, like as a dad, like that's how I'm going to decide what the age of consent is. Like
Whatever
you
age
will,
pisses you off.
yeah, exactly. Like is if you're alive, then that means that it was permissible.
Oh god. Yeah. I don't know. But what if your dad's not around or you're like dad doesn't
Oh,
really
of
give a
course.
shit
No,
or
no, I
know what's
understand.
up? Yeah.
Yeah, I understand why people, want it to be enshrined in law. I totally get that.
Okay, I'm gonna just like let's go to the end. I feel like
Definitively available to have sex with this individual. And then also look at the history of the individual as well. So does this individual have a
Mhm.
history of abuse?
Yep.
And then you go from there.
Yep.
but what if you have someone that like a grown person that doesn't have a history of abuse? Go right ahead to have sex with this 15-year-old. I just it just looks like and I know this is maybe it's like an analytical libertarian space that this conversation is happening in. It's not really happening in reality, but it's like
Right.
it's hard to justify like, well, if he's a good person, let him have sex with the 14-year-old. He's got a 401k. He's never he has a clean criminal record. Let him have at it.
Yeah. No,
So
I think that this is more of a global conversation because there are many cultures like Africa, Latin America, where there are, you know, 14
Yeah.
and 15-year-olds that get married. Like that's not unheard of. So I think that's more the context in which we're having this kind of theoretical
Right.
discussion, but whatever.
Yeah. This is like a
Yeah, there you go. Saudi Arabia, good example.
I'm definitely not I hope you don't feel Clint that I'm trying to like, I don't know, make
No,
you
not at all.
feel a way.
I look,
I think
as I said, anybody thinks that they have a problem with what I say in this interview, please go and watch it, and we can
yeah.
have a discussion. I stand by it. Like I think that I
Yeah.
handled a really really third rail brutal topic in about as well a way as I could have.
Yeah, and the fact that you even like had this guy on to hear him out is I think it's always good to have controversial people on and just be like, yeah, like let's talk this through.
That's
Yeah.
the answer. And I feel that these are conversations because, in different cultures, you cannot turn your back on different cultures and you have to respect them. But in an ANCAP society, you also have to expect that if someone engages in a relationship where it's not seen by the community, by the very small community, as agreed upon, you have to accept the consequences. That's the answer.
Oh, I agree with everything you just said 100%. I
That's
mean,
the answer.
that's
But you weren't
that's
adding that nuance. But that you were not adding that nuance on Twitter, and you know it. And I'm not trying to be mean to you. Like I'm cool. Like we're cool. But I'm just like you
okay.
weren't adding that on. You weren't adding that in, and I was like, yo, that's
Yeah, so it looks like she's trying to like almost be like, here is why people called you out
Exactly. No,
on
that's
Twitter.
why. Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly the framing of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's so weird about this is like now the controversy went from the bottom part of the screen to the top left. And it's like, what? Who
I
knew? Who
know.
knew that this interview would be such a freaking nuclear bomb?
All of the interviews with her are nuclear bombs because everyone's going through and being like, huh, that's kind of weird. Huh, that's kind of weird.
That's true, I guess. But I mean, given
There,
the content of this actual discussion is like, it's the super nuke.
yeah. And then I think there's an interesting part a little bit later on where you guys get into, what should be done with someone who is like a pedo or a
Mhm.
trafficker or an abuser. Like what, most people give the obvious answer of like wood chipper,
Right.
but I think her answer to this is a little bit
all
interesting.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes,
I
but
mean,
I not
I don't know
every
though.
law though. So
Here I am being like more harsh on pedophiles. Like if I mean if I came across someone raping a child, I'm very likely to do serious bodily damage to him, which might be illegal. So is that not okay?
I mean, it's up to you. You know the consequences of that under the current system. It's not for me to decide, but or what
Well,
you.
if it was my son, for sure, but really any kid. So is it not okay to do that?
I'm from a different school of thought. I'm really nuanced with
Okay.
that. I feel like abusers, pimps, pedophiles should be studied. We have
Okay.
a desperate need to study these folks because I
Okay.
feel like you probably get more to the grind, like idea of why the crime is happening in the first place. Is it like a pattern of abuse? Is it abuse in the home? Is it, this is understudied, and I'm like one of the only advocates in the United States that will serve survivors that are also convicted abusers as well. So
Wow.
I have a strong compassion for folks that,
Wow.
I don't know
For
why.
pedos.
It's probably because I have like a very like Jungian like a sense of myself where I can recognize my own shadow.
Wow.
So because I'm able to like look at that and say like, okay, I'm capable of doing ABCD, not with children per se, but just dark, very dark things. It's not that I have compassion for folks. It's just like I have a desperate need to understand them because I want to solve the crime.
Okay, so
Wanna
I
get
think
to
your
the bottom of the
I think your approach is better than mine.
crime.
look at
Uh,
my face. Look at my face. I'm like, I don't think that that approach is better than yours. I'm like,
You're like, I can recognize my own darkness. I see myself in the abusers. I don't know. Yeah, your face is like,
see, that's where like my eyebrows are definitely like, okay, there's something happening here. Like I don't really know at the time, but I'm like, this is strange.
what
This is
does
just strange.
Jungian even mean? Like, she's like, I have
Carl
a
Jung.
Jungian sense of I know it's Carl Jung, but what does it mean? I have a Jungian sense of myself.
I think it's wanting to analyze the psychology behind a criminal or something like that.
Wow. Okay. So,
I
I mean, I
think.
just think that's interesting that she says that. Like, she's like, I want to study them because it's like, I almost like she's sounding like she's saying, I see myself in them. I have compassion for them. I don't know. It's like we're definitely not hearing the whole story.
I love this
And
freeze frame.
yeah, this should be your, your
I'm like,
background.
what did I get myself into?
Oh no.
Wasn't it after this? Then they found more stuff that Thad had said. I think it was like after that, wasn't
I
it?
think so. Yeah,
Yeah, and then it just
there was
got
like
worse.
another wild interview after that he had done
But
that
you know
came
what?
out.
Like, good for you. I think it's good to talk to people who like who a lot of other people wouldn't talk to. Like, people get mad at me. I've had Gavin McGinnis, Anthony Cumia on. I've had Owen Benjamin on.
Yep.
I've gotten shit for having Sebastian Gorka on. I've gotten shit for going on Megyn Kelly's podcast. So you're always gonna get shit for either having someone or going on someone's show. And I think it's good to have that's one of the reasons I started a podcast, is to have people on who were like
Exactly.
overly censored, or
Well,
the internet has misunderstood in some way.
just keep in mind too, people like you and I are constantly dodging the censorship bullets. So like for me, I have an automatic kinship to someone who is like deplatformed from everywhere. Like I am so ride or die for Alex Jones because like he's like the ultimate banned guy. So like I just always will have an affinity for like trying to have a conversation with someone I'm not supposed to. Maybe that gets me in trouble sometimes. I don't really care. That just for everyone's, backstory understanding, like my primary goal wasn't really to rehabilitate Thaddeus in this interview. It was I thought that there was some value to be found in the discussion between a survivor and someone who thinks that age of consent ought to be changed. And I thought like having
Yeah, I can see
having
that. Yeah.
having those polarities clash with one another, I thought could be really productive potentially. Whether or not people agree that it was productive, that's up to them to decide. But and then the last note that I thought was valuable was like there are a lot of people who aren't predators that are on sex offender registries in this country.
Right, who
For
like pee in public a couple of
exactly,
times, or
yeah.
I
There's a
mean, that's the only
litany,
example I know of that.
yeah,
Fuck
but
in the
there's
car. If you fuck in a car and get busted, you can
right.
get that.
If
There's
you're
a lot
fucking a car, why would someone like in the gas tank?
Fuck in the car.
in it, because it's like in public, it's like lewd and
All
lascivious
right,
behavior
yes,
or whatever.
yes, I'm familiar.
Yeah.
Fucking in a car.
You're like,
Just
come
be
on, like you
very
haven't done that,
careful.
Chrissie. Come on.
Once, many, many years ago.
Me too. I lost my virginity in a car, actually.
Frank's
I
like,
think that's
a
the
couple of
last time I
months
did it.
ago.
Yeah, a couple months ago.
To completion? All right, all right.
So that was the other reason I thought that there might be value there. I was like, hey, this is actually something that I think does need to be reformed, that you don't have people who aren't predators that have their entire lives ruined because they were drunk and, peed somewhere. So that was it.
Her brand ain't gonna survive this debacle. But who knows? Maybe it will. I don't even know
I think
anymore.
if she has some semblance of an explanation, it could be salvaged to a certain extent, but the radio silence and the cryptic tweets instead of just answering these fairly obvious questions, I just think it's the worst possible way to handle it. I really don't
Right.
understand what's going on.
Like, people have questions about her and her timeline, but then she's tweeting about, oh, if you think, if you're trying to, if you're using me to take down Elon, and then she'll mention Kanye West, and I'll be like, girl, none of this. You're making this about other things and people. Like, people have questions about you specific.
Right.
Stop making this about Elon. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think but I don't know how much more time she wants to have go by before she wants to start clearing these things up.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and
and
I think that the other thing I'd like to add is like there's a lot of people that are just watching this because they like to see someone get destroyed. And I just want to be very clear. I don't like this. I don't like it at all. I don't want to think that
goodbye. No, I'm kidding.
no, I'm just saying I don't want people to think that like I want her to be destroyed at all. Like I do not want her
I
to
don't
be
want that
destroyed.
either. I
Yeah,
don't want that
so
either.
I just want to make it explicit because a lot of people are going to watch this and say like,
In case
"Oh,
she's
he's just,
watching.
he's in this to, get clicks or whatever." It's like, no, absolutely not. I just wanted people to understand the full picture a little bit better because the clip is going to be out there and people are going to be asking questions and I want people to understand, my vantage point on things and that all of my interactions up until today have been very positive. So for what it's worth.
Yeah. I would hope my best case scenario for her is like she tomorrow morning does a live stream and goes, here's all everyone's notes. I made concerns over the last 10 days.
Right.
I'm going to go through one by one all these questions. I'm going to keep my DMs open or whatever. People can super chat, people can just comment. I
I'd
will
love that.
address the questions. I'm going to do fucking as long as it takes and
Right.
go through everyone's concerns and be fucking honest. Love you guys. Thank you for the chats. Thank you for the comments. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Bye. All right. Love you guys. God, I don't even want to leave. This candle smells so good. I don't want to leave. All right. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye. Love you all. Join the Discord. Feet. Love you all. Wow. You guys are awesome. Come and get it. Bye, guys. Bye. Now I'm really leaving. Love you. Bye.